This is Chris on the YouTube channel Catholic Marcellus. I'm new to this, so let's see how this goes. Anyways, the question today is, did God throw Judas away? Let's start with who was Judas. Judas was one of the 12 apostles chosen by Jesus. Judas betrayed Jesus and by doing so fulfilled prophecy. And people think that because Judas's betrayal fulfilled prophecy, that God either caused Judas to sin, didn't care about his salvation, or didn't try to save him. And that would mean that God is not all good. Now here's the answer. Number one, God is all good and deserves our love. You can trust that. That's always true. So you always go back to that because that is true. Number two, God is eternal, which means he's outside time, which means past, present, and future are all the present to him. They're all one. They're all the same to him. Number three, God knows everything, including all of our eternal fates, and every choice we will ever make. Okay, now let's look at that. We know that God did not cause Judas to sin. In fact, the betrayal by Judas was against God's will. Hence, it's called a sin. We also know that Judas refused forgiveness and killed himself, which also was against God's will. Also note, I would also like to say this is also true. God had the right to forgive Judas. Judas refused God his right to forgive him. It would not surprise me one bit that if Judas had repented and gone to Jesus and asked for forgiveness, it would not surprise me if Judas actually became Saint Judas the Penitent. God is that forgiving and that loving. Now, that all said, Judas was not doing God's will, but fell within God's plan. God is able to draw good out of evil choices and deeds, and use them in his plan for the salvation of mankind. In fact, at the end of time, when we can see how much good God can draw out of evil, it will humble us, when our hearts are open to him, we'll love him and worship him. We'll be so amazed how much good God drew out of the evil people chose. It will humble us, our hearts will open, and we will love him and worship him. He is that good. Here's an example. The prophet Jonah was told by God to go preach to Nineveh. The prophet Jonah refused to do God's will. He took off. He got into a ship with Gentiles and sailed away from Nineveh. Because he did not do God's will, he was refusing to do God's will, just like Judas did. But he still fell within God's plan. Because you can see, because of his choice, because God knew what it would be, it created a foreshadowing of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. How the Gentile sailors threw him into the ocean. Jesus' burial and time of the dead, the time Jonah spent in the belly of the whale, his resurrection, foreshadowing being put on shore. Kind of less foreshadowing, it's just awkward. Anyways, also the foreshadowing of Christ sending his church to the Gentiles, because Nineveh were Gentiles. So you can see with Jonah an example of a prophet refusing to do God's will, at least initially, but still following within God's plan, because he created these foreshadowings of Christ's life, or at least Christ's death, burial, resurrection, and sending his church to the Gentiles. Any questions? Please comment, and please subscribe, like, and comment. Catholic Marcellus here. Have fun. I'm really awkward at this. I will try to get better.